Good evening and welcome to LLN News at 5. I'm Rob.
And I'm Kayla.
Tonight, on the day of his wife's funeral, we are reviewing the atrocity of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
We are joined by a panel of experts to review and analyze the death of the Archduke and its meaning for the situation in the Balkans, in the whole of Europe. Before we introduce the panel, for the benefit of the viewers, here is some footage of our report from the day of the Archduke's assassination.
Archduke Ferdinand, next in line to the Austrian-Hungarian throne, has been murdered in Sarajevo. His wife was killed beside him in their motorcade. It is understood that the Archduke and his wife were fatally shot by a bystander whilst returning from an event at the town hall which they were partaking in. Earlier today, there was a foiled initial attempt at the Archduke's life by bombing, after which a number of individuals have been arrested.
Today on the streets of Sarajevo, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife Sophie, Duchess of Hohenberg, were both shot while being transported in their motorcade. The streets were in chaos following the shots. However, we were able to get eyewitness confirmation that the assassin was arrested immediately after. We also have eyewitness accounts that the shooting took place after the Archduke's motorcade took a wrong turn and had to turn around. In the midst of turning around was when the assassin was able to use the confusion to get to the motorcade. The shooting was in close range, and reports from citizens in the area say that they heard 2 shots. Both the Archduke and his wife were rushed to receive medical attention. We will continue to report from Sarajevo as more news of the couple comes in.
Since this report, more details about the event have emerged.
The shooting was carried out by a teenage Serbian rebel named as Gavrilo Princip as part of a supposed plot by the rebel group the Black Hand.
Ferdinand's position as heir to the Austrian-Hungarian throne has since been overtaken by his nephew, Emperor Francis Joseph.
The late Archduke and his wife are currently lying in state in the Hofburg Palace in Vienna. Evan joins us now from Hofburg.
Evan, can you tell us more about the situation in Vienna at the moment? What has the reception for the deceased been like?
The response by the public has been quite significant, with large numbers taking the opportunity to come and pay their respects to the couple in the court chapel, despite the absence of an official procession and the fact that the obituary notices written in Viennese newspapers highlighted the lack of popularity for the late Archduke. This is considered due in no small part to his marriage to Sophie, a noble from outside the imperial dynasty. The brief funeral service which took place this afternoon was attended by the new heir to the Austrian-Hungarian throne, Emperor Francis Joseph, and many other significant figures. More noteworthy, perhaps, were its absentees, many notables, including the Duchess's own siblings, close friends of the couple, and their own children, who had not been invited. This could be considered a major slight from the imperial family. Arrangements have been made by the imperial couple's burial at midnight.
Thank you, Evan. The death of the Archduke has been pointed out in the New York Times as bringing about many questions in terms of consequences. With this, there has been mention of a possible but seemingly improbable European war based on the premise that anti-Serbian demonstrations have been strengthened by Russian inquisition to German-supported Austro-Hungarian actions that may cause the creation of such a situation.
To advance upon these thoughts and possible consequences, we turn to 3 expert panelists with perspectives from both Germany, Serbia and Britain.
They now join us in the newsroom.
Let us begin now with a question to our German military expert, Professor Chris Robinson.
Professor Robinson, how has Germany responded to this attack, and furthermore, how do you think the Kaiser will continue relations with the affected countries?
To clarify the final question, do you believe, in your expert opinion, that Germany may go to war over this event?
No, I don't think Germany will have a role in these events. I think it is purely a Balkan affair, got nothing to do with the other major powers in Europe at all. I mean, this sort of conflict has been going on for hundreds of years down there, and whether it's between the Ottoman Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, or Serbian nationalism, or Greek nationalism, or Romanian and Bulgarian and Albanian. It's always been a hodgepodge bar there. And to be really honest, it's got nothing to do with the German Empire at all.
Thank you, Professor Robinson. Now we turn to expert panelist Professor Kay. Good afternoon, Professor. Before we ask you of the Serbia-Austro-Hungarian relations, we would like to share a live feed from recently returned reporter Simon with our viewers.
I've just returned from the Kosovo Day celebrations in Belgrade, and the news of the assassination has just briefly touched the population. The Serbian Prime Minister, Nikola Pasic, has in his speech warned the people that the Austrian-Hungarian Empire were to use this incident as an incentive of a declaration of war in the days to come. Now, I've spoken to several Serbians about this matter, and they seem to, of course, they seem surprised because of the incident, but they're rather indifferent as well to the whole matter. On the other hand, it's quite interesting to see how different scholars are talking of a willing nation that wants to fight, despite being in several wars the last decade, for instance, the Balkan Wars. It looks like the general public is not yet aware of the severity of the incident, and are not yet aware about the consequences that may arise. And it's therefore really important for Prime Minister Pasic to inform them during these celebrations. Simon Knudsen, LNN News.
Thank you, Simon. With the recent reactions fresh in mind, Professor, how is your country of expertise planning on reacting to these events? And do you believe a war will be on?
So the reaction to the events that occurred in Sarajevo and Belgrade is one of shock by a minority, but by the vast majority of those Serbians, in particular the nationalistic side, is that this is something we've hoped for. That the assassination of the upper echelons of Austrian-Hungarian monarchy, which has for centuries kept us down in the Balkans and have tried to incur their power in the Balkans. So in my personal professional opinion, I feel as if though this assassination is almost welcomed by the vast majority of Serbians, but it is something that is more likely said behind closed doors.
In light of what Professor Kay and Professor Robinson believe will be the outcome of this assassination, what has been the reaction in Britain from officials?
Well, following the recent visit of the Archduke and his wife to England, the monarchy are deeply affected by this situation, announcing both a week of mourning and a requiem mass in honour of the Archduke in Westminster Abbey. Sir Edward Grey, British Foreign Minister, has also expressed his condolences, addressing the death of the Archduke as a tragic loss.
If the European conflict which others are predicting arises, do you think Britain is likely to become involved?
It's too early to tell. Of course, we can merely speculate about the future, but in this respect, I tend to agree with the opinion expressed by the Times that despite the tragedy of events abroad, the tragedy of events at home is of primary importance, and the assassination of leaders by nationalist minorities at this time is unfortunately not an isolated event in the world. So this is not an immediate cause of British concern. There are many domestic problems occurring in Britain right now, such as that in Ireland where the Home Rule Bill has been passed.
But considering their alliances with countries who are likely to become involved in any arising conflict, their role as a great power and their naval race with Germany, surely Britain is likely to be pulled into a conflict.
Domestic problems in Britain which require urgent governmental intervention make their involvement in any rising conflict seem unlikely. Civil war in Ireland is likely due to the formation of the armed Irish Volunteer Force and Ulster Volunteer Force who are willing to fight for and against the third Home Rule Bill's passing. The refusal of the army in Ireland to bring a solution to the Ulster Protestants over this issue elevates this problem. Then within England, the government are facing industrial strikes, the rise of militant worker unions and the administration of justice to protesting suffragettes. Involvement in another conflict, whilst these issues persist, could inspire public hatred of the government. However, acknowledging Britain's past involvement in mediating the Balkan situation and their obligation to aid in conflict countries in the Triple Entente and the Treaty of London, British involvement in the case of an arising conflict here cannot be ruled out. But these alliances have also been classed as unbinding agreements of convenience and not indicative of concrete British committal involvement in disadvantageous conflicts. However, antagonism between Britain and Germany, who seem supportive of a conflict in this area, has been fostered by their naval race, with Britain seeing Germany as a threat to the balance of power. Thus, Britain's role as a great power and their desire to maintain this may result in their involvement in the rising conflict here, depending on its development and what countries become involved.
That concludes our report on the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife.
We'd like to thank our panellists for coming in, and thanks to reporters for keeping us updated.
We'll keep you updated further on this event as time progresses and more unfolds. And for now, over to Susan for the week's weather report.